In this video for writers, I'm going to look at usage rules and grammar principles to illustrate the difference between two elements in writing and the differing results that they have for your writing. Usage rules focus on mechanical elements and punctuation, things like spelling, commas, and capitalization. They typically do not involve bad grammar, even though people typically refer to violating a usage rule as being bad grammar. In contrast, grammar principles focus on the writer's options to create style and emphasis by controlling pace, word order and positions, rhythm, sentence structure, things of that sort. Now, I'll give 3 examples of usage rules and 3 examples of grammar principles to illustrate the difference here. But keep in mind that grammar principles will help you to deploy words with impact and style. Usage rules only make your writing correct, but will never make it good. So, first usage rule, don't confuse compliment with an I and compliment with an E. They're 2 different words, sound the same, different spelling. The first involves flattery when you pay a compliment to someone. The second refers to something that completes something else, and like the word complete, this compliment has an E in it. And it completes something else like a beer that complements a food, creating a good combination. Usage rule 2, don't confuse it's with an apostrophe and it's without an apostrophe. An easy way to remember the difference is that it's with an apostrophe is always a contraction, and it always means it is or it has. So if you write it in a sentence where it cannot be replaced with it is or it has, then you want it's without an apostrophe. It's without an apostrophe is a possessive pronoun just like his and hers, and you never see his and hers with an apostrophe, at least not if they're spelled correctly. Of course, in language, there are always exceptions, and it is possible that you could have a sentence where either it's with an apostrophe or it's without was what you intended, but it would be 2 different meanings. For instance, in this example, the first one, the company knows its stuff. If it's a possessive, it's a kind of compliment, actually. The company knows what it's doing. But in the second one, with the contraction, it's with an apostrophe, it seems to be saying that the company knows it's not very good. So, usage rule 3, which has versions A and B, which conflict with each other. Always put a comma before the last item in a series, or, if you obey the opposing camp of usage Gestapo, never ever put a comma before the last item in a series. This usage rule is quite different from the 2 previous ones in the sense that there's really no debate about most usage rules, including the 2 previous ones. But there are a very few usage rules like this one that tend to create some debate among some types of people. But the way I would look at this is that we can't be too inflexible here. Usage rules, not only do they change over time, but there are going to be some usage rules that just are not so cut and dried and cannot be handled the same way. The writers would be better off to look at them in a more flexible way. If you look at this sentence, the first one has a series comma and the second one does not. They have different meanings. So if you were insisting on one or the other of the series comma approaches, you might not have the meaning that you want. On the first one, over the weekend she met her college friend, a criminal and a priest. That might mean that she met 3 people, or it might mean that her college friend is a criminal and a priest, because those last 2 nouns would be modifiers of friend. In the second example, with a comma, there's no confusion there. in terms of how many people she met. But if she wants to say that her college friend was a criminal and a priest, this one won't do it because the second and third items in the series do not appear to modify the noun that goes before. As I said earlier, usage rules focus on what is currently accepted as proper, and there are dozens and dozens of books out there that cover usage rules. They don't really cover the elements of style, and these books tend to agree on the vast majority of usage situations. They only differ on a few, and sometimes a writer has a particular pet peeve and insists on one way or the other. But really, the nature of usage rules is that what is accepted changes over time. It's actually one of the main reasons why language changes over time and why our language is not quite the same as the 20th century and 19th century English or Shakespeare's English for that matter. Now, grammar principles are a different matter. They focus on the ways that words go together to create meaning. They describe the options that writers have to create impact, style, and emphasis. So let me give you those three examples. Grammar Principle 1, writers can think of sentences as a series of slots in which they can position words in the many patterns described and available by English grammar. Grammar Principle 2, the beginnings and endings of sentences are places of natural emphasis, and stylish writers manipulate them frequently, in fact all the time, by creating sentence structures that put key words at the beginning or in the middle. It's a major way to create impact. Grammar Principle 3, the order in which writers deploy the parts of the sentence nucleus, the grammatical subject, predicate, and if present, the object, is another tactic for emphasis because there are routine patterns, and then there are patterns that are not so routine that create emphasis and draw attention. So the wrap here on the difference between usage and grammar: following usage makes your writing correct, but it cannot make it good. You do want it to be correct, otherwise you'll undercut your credibility simply because a reader recognizes that you're violating some usage rule. So you do want it to be correct, but that's a very low bar. Recognizing a few grammar principles helps you to see opportunities that add impact to your writing. For example, if you want to exploit the nuances of loading modifiers at the front of a sentence, or you want to create suspense by inserting words between the subject and the predicate, you need to look at grammatical principles. If you want to create your own style or compose the kind of sentences that you admire in a favorite author, you'll want to look at grammatical principles. If you want to balance equal ideas in equal grammatical structures or contrast two ideas in unbalanced structures, then again you'll want to be recognizing and understanding a few grammatical principles. For more on how to slot words and sentences for maximum impact and use grammar principles, visit the website www.writingtacticsandstyle.com. Among the posts and videos you'll see there is an article entitled "For Emphasis, Change the Routine Order of the Words," which speaks to the nucleus that I just mentioned under Grammar Principle 3, and also "Making the Most of Modifiers," which speaks to moving modifiers around the sentence for more emphasis. Get beyond the rules and aim high.